you're not on those drugs, you'd better be. Right. Because those are the unwritten terms of engagement to be a pro wrestler. But I mean,
let me just get to one thing. In the WCW contracts, in the new ones, and I think in most of them, it enables them to cut pay in half if someone is not performing for 30 days, and termination after 90 days if they're injured and unable to perform. And Brett, it's been said by many wrestlers that that the encouragement is, if you're at 29 days and you're going to get your salary cut, let's say you're a $150,000 a year guy, and it's going to get cut to 75, you're going to find your way to get back in the game. And and we know what that is, and it'd be the same way for football players. If a football player was told, if you're not back in 4 weeks in the game, your salary is cut in half, I think that the drug use in professional football would be way up. So anyway, I just want to let everyone. I want to clarify basically what's there. Okay, we've got Zach online. I want to read this one thing. It's an email from Kevin Gray. We've got a couple more I want to read after this call. But it says, I just want to let you know a little more about Duke Nukem. The guy does take steroids, but it's not to become refreshed. When you have the character take steroids, he can run fast as hell. There's also a weapon where you can shrink your opponent, and if your opponent is shrank and then he takes steroids, he will grow back to his normal size. So, anyway.
No, steroids are safe. And in the Super Nintendo version of the game, it's called Vitamin X instead.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead, Zach.
I don't really have a lot else to say. I was just wondering what Mr. Mushnick's thoughts were on that subject, because, I mean, like you said, there's no way that it can possibly not contribute to painkiller abuse. And, I mean, if you think about it, Spicoli, Duncombe, a lot of the
Rick Rude as well.
Yeah,
they were all having to do with painkillers.
Right.
Yeah.
It speaks for itself. It really does. I mean, in Hollywood, one of the analogies that McMahon always uses, at least when an actor dies of a drug overdose, it's on the front page. In pro wrestling, we all, the three of us know, Zach, Dave, we know that it's closeted.
Yeah,
I don't know what the WCW's contractual stipulations are, but again, if there's a 30-day period where you must work.
Oh, there is.
Really?
There is. They cut.
You must work 30 consecutive days or risk.
No. The stipulation is that if you are injured and unable to get back, let's say they are contractually able to cut your pay in half. If after the 30-day limit, and that's to encourage people to come back, and but there definitely is, and there's a lot of guys who have had their pay cut in half because they were unable to perform for 30 days.
That haven't been. That's stunning. I mean, it's very selective enforcement, of course, just like everything else.
Right. And was it 90 days, I think, and they can terminate you for. But they basically have that in cycles anyway. But the 30 days to and your pay is cut in half is in the contracts, and there were several major names that actually had their pay cut not all that long ago, including Bret Hart, as a matter of fact. As what I essentially see as a combination cost cutting measure and a way to encourage them to return. And clearly, if Bret Hart had returned to ring action. Because it's, in his case...
would be in the same place as Masakatsu Fukuda now.
He could be. Let me tell you something. If he was... in the case of Bret Hart, you're talking about over the course of a year, that 50%'s like 7 figures.
I guarantee you, fellas, on a blind, I guarantee you that those contracts are in violation of the National Labor Relations Board. They've got to be. I'd love to see somebody press that issue. But as we all know, in wrestling, if you fight the system, you're out of wrestling. Hold on. Anyway.
Okay. Anything else?
No. Y'all have a nice evening.
Okay. Thanks so much, Zach. Okay. Let's go to Ricardo in New York. That's a really good point. As far as that contractual thing. Ricardo, go ahead.
Yes, hi Dave. Hi, Mr. Mushnick.
Hi, Ricardo.
Oh, but I just have a question for you and for Dave. My question to you, Mr. Mushnick, is, well, first of all, I just want to say that I read your article on the NCAA and Pepsi and the whole gambling thing, and I thought it was
that too.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was right on the money, and it was pretty good.
Thanks, Ricardo.
I guess
shows
my problem.
No accounting for taste, by the way.
I guess I have mixed feelings about your views on wrestling and all. I do agree that a more responsible attitude has to be taken in terms of how do you handle the wrestlers and the drug test in general. I mean, God knows that if that would have been done before, I mean, we would still have Pillman, Brian Pillman, and a bunch of other wrestlers among us. But why? I mean, I guess I want to ask you to just maybe go a little further. That maybe because Vince McMahon didn't create this system. He does a pretty good job using it. But the system, it goes back, I guess, to the Indies and all those wrestling schools. I mean, well, it's hard for me to believe that...
There used to be slavery, Ricardo. They used to burn witches. I mean, we allegedly live in an enlightened age. Let me just tell you, the essence of Vince McMahon can be found in his newly formed XFL. Here is a fellow who is being sued by the Owen Hart family in a wrongful death case, and at the same time is announcing that his football league will do away with the fair catch. Now, what is the fair catch designed to do? It's designed to protect players from having their necks broken. Because to catch a punt at the same time you're being hit is to put yourself at great personal risk as it relates to your neurological safety, your well-being as it relates to living and dying. And this is the first thing he announces, or one of the first things he announces, is we're going to get rid of the fair catch, and as his spokesperson said, we're looking for a more visceral league. Visceral meaning crude. What does that tell you about this man? Do you think he gives a rat's tail whether these people get hurt? He cares about his pocketbook.
Yeah, we know.
He cares about how far he can get over. He's become a caricature of himself.
Yeah, we know what kind of promoter he is, and we know what he did to Bret Hart and all the stuff with Pillman's wife.
Right.
We understand that. I just wanted to know. I just wanted you to maybe see what's going on in the Indies or those wrestling schools. I mean, it's hard for me to believe again that these people is not telling these guys, you got to take some, drugs, in order for you got to grow up and you know what you have to do, right? So that's also big part of the problem.
You know what the big problem is, Ricardo? Let's get real honest with ourselves. I don't mean to put you on the couch here. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychoanalyst.
All right.
The problem with you and so many pro wrestling fans, and Dave, I admire you because you put me on. We've become Confederates, even though you take a lot of heat for being my buddy. And the problem is that we like pro wrestling even though we know it's no good. Even though it's hard we have to rationalize the living daylights out of it to get over on it. We know that it's not good for society. We know that it's aimed at kids. We know it's no good for kids. We know it preaches all the wrong things. And yet we want to remain wrestling fans. That's the problem.
So, Mr. Mushnick, you mean to tell me that if it was up to you, you would completely erase the pro wrestling from America?
No, absolutely not. I grew up with pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think it? No, I've been accused of that so many times. You want the government to ban it? No, but I tell you what, if the government ever took a hard look at it, the way they would look at any other sport or any other entity, any other business entity that would abuse its employees, an awful lot of changes would occur. David, I just heard a beep on this my phone here, which means it's ready to die. My battery's dying.
Dave, can I ask you a question and then I hang up?
Sure.
If you lose me, I'm going to say goodnight now.
Okay, Phil. Why don't real quick? I just wanted to, before you go, because there was one more point I wanted to ask you about. Am I losing you?
Hang on. I'm going to try to get downstairs.
Okay, Carter, why don't you ask me real quick?
Hang on.
Don't you think that the ECW title has been really diminished by this change of
Hello?
title holder?
Oh,
Okay, are you
we're
back?
live. We
Okay,
have electricity now.
Okay, Ricardo, finish up on the ECW
I'm sorry,
title
Ricardo.
question.
Yeah, don't you think that he has been really hurt not only by what happened on Thursday, but also by these constant changes of champions, from Taz to Dreamer and then to Credible? I think that Paul Heyman has done a lot to hurt his title, his ECW heavyweight champion. He has done as much as WCW did.
Okay,
in terms of hurting it.
I think that and I don't know, this may be such an antiquated way of looking at it, but I think the worst thing for that title was the thing on Thursday.